This is Mike Casu, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week's guest is Michaela North. She's the head coach of Brute Body for Women, a mother of 3, and a member of the 2017 Affiliate Cup champion team, the Wasatch Brutes. On this show, we talk about how she's able to do everything she does while raising and spending significant amounts of time with her kids. She tells me the story of narrowly missing the CrossFit Games in 2016 by one spot. And she tells me some stories that I've never heard about training for and competing with the Wasatch Brutes. I had a ton of respect for Michaela going into this show, but hearing her perspective around some of the challenges that she's had in her life just gives me so much more respect for her. Enjoy the show. Hey, this is Mike Casu, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. I'm here with the head coach of Brute Body Women, Michaela North. Michaela, you've got an incredibly full plate in your life, and so I really appreciate you making some time to do this with me today.
Hey, I am beyond happy to do this with you. I always listen to your podcasts and love them, so I felt really flattered when you asked me to do one with you.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. So I want to start out telling your story chronologically because I think it's so impressive what you've done in your life. So you were a track athlete at Weber State in Utah in what years?
I graduated high school 2006, so I competed in the 2007 season, and then 2007, 8, 9, and 10.
Gotcha.
So last season was 2010.
Okay, then you get married, then you start doing CrossFit. At what point did you get interested in competing in CrossFit? Is it before or after you had your twins?
Before I had my twins and day one of CrossFit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so let's see. It was summer of 2011, so it had been about a year since track. I had about 6 months where I didn't do anything, and then started to realize that I did want to be in shape. Post collegiate athletics, I just wanted to be in shape for my own health and wellness. I did like to be fit, and I loved to work out, and so I was kind of studying on my own, what should I be eating, etc., and getting back into a workout routine, and did what every person does when they want to get fit. As an adult, I started training for half marathons.
Yeah, nice.
Right? Isn't that kind of what everyone does?
Yep.
Okay, what do I do now? Oh, I do a marathon. So I started training for half marathons, and kind of during that time, I was running that summer of 2011. I did, 3 halves and then a full. And during that time, I connected with a friend whose boyfriend was interning at Wasatch CrossFit for Damon Stewart in Layton. And so I came to a free Saturday class, and he, I loved it. Instantly, it was oh, this is so much fun. How can I do more of this? And he told me that they had this team, that I could try out to be on, and then maybe I could get a free membership if I made the team.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah. So instantly I was oh yeah, that's what I want to do. So I showed up that Monday morning at 6 a.m. before work and did, I don't even know. I think that I thought it was a team tryout, but I don't really know if it was or not. But I worked out with the group, and the rest is pretty much history from there.
So was that 2011?
Yeah. So that was summer of 2011. Did you make the team? I made the team.
Oh, so it was summer of 2011. So the season had already passed.
So it had already passed. So they were kind of setting their sights for the next year. And I guess, so basically kind of a little bit of brief history. I studied business marketing in college as well as psychology. I ended up majoring in marketing and had planned to work for an advertising firm. And got a really great internship right out of college for an ad agency nearby. And, got set up as an account coordinator, account manager. And that was kind of the track I was on. I sort of thought I was, at the beginning of my official career, and was really excited about it. I loved it. But pretty much the day I started CrossFit and realized that, I could I could just see, like, I could do this as a career. This is something that I'm passionate about that I never knew was an actual option.
Hmm.
I kind of thought fitness ended after college athletics. Anyways, I spoke with Damon and, pretty much committed to competing on their team that day, as well as interning, getting level 1 certified, and coaching. So that was kind of over the next 4 months. I ended up quitting my job, got
Wow.
certified, and just dove in head first.
Nice. It happened
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. It was great.
So I hear some version of this all the time from moms or soon to be moms. I just want to get something like, quote unquote, I just want to get out all of the competing out of me before I have kids, or once they have them, something like, I just don't have time to train enough because I have kids. You don't let your kids hold you back in the least. And you have an incredibly well balanced life, like from the outside looking in. So did you have any of those kinds of thoughts at any point? And if so, how did you get through them or around them or use them to move you for even further ahead?
Yeah. That's a really good question. And I think the answer is different for everyone. And for me, it's been like something that's constantly evolving over, the past 4 years. But I would say that, well, one thing I learned was that I've competed, since I can remember. It's always kind of been a part of me and who I am, and it's something that I really love. And so having children didn't change that, I realized. And it was actually during my twin pregnancy, which was my first pregnancy, that I mean, it's hard for me to remember now if when I got pregnant, if I had my sights set on competing that following season or not. But as the pregnancy progressed, I realized that competing was something that I still really wanted to do. And I was really new to CrossFit, and I felt like, I still had a lot of room to grow there. And I wanted to take that opportunity as, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I did. Once I had my twins, I realized that that was something I was still really passionate about. And I feel really blessed that I have been able to do both, because motherhood has definitely always been priority number one for me. I feel just so blessed that I've been able to do also, what I'm
Mm-hmm.
really passionate about, kind of alongside that. And so I would say for those women who are really passionate about competing right now, like having kids likely won't change that. It'll probably make you value it more, because you'll realize like how special that time is that you get to compete.
Right.
I think I took it for granted before I had kids.
Sure. So how do you personally balance the two of those? So on one hand, you want to spend as much time as possible with your kids, and on the other, it's not even selfish, but you have to have your own hobbies and passions. And then thirdly, you want to set a good example for your children to go after what they want, that they have to work hard for what they want. How do you balance all of those?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just had another girl ask me this actually this weekend. She's a mom of two and really, really excited about competing. She was a Division I track and field athlete. She competed for another university nearby in college, and she just asked me this actually on Saturday when I saw her. She said the same thing, like, how do you balance it all? How do you balance, competing and being a mom? And I think she coaches, so she said coaching. At the gym, and I told her, like, I think she said, how do you do it all so well? And I said, I honestly, the answer is I don't. Like, I'm not always perfect. I'm not always in balance. Um I struggle. And for her, I think mom guilt. She mentioned having
Mm-hmm.
mom guilt, and I just kind of let her know that, like, I think when you're a mom, you have mom guilt. That it's this like sad thing that all moms are blessed with. We all care a lot about our kids, and we care about doing a good job. And so with that, we're always worried that we aren't doing a good job and we aren't matching up. And so I think that no matter what you are, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a working mom, if you're a mom with competitive aspirations, you're going to always have, I think, a little bit of guilt with like doing stuff for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's normal. But on the other side of that, like, I know that I am, motherhood for me is a huge blessing, and it's my number one priority. But at the same time, I know that I have a bigger purpose here on earth, and I want to fulfill that too and be true to
Mm-hmm.
myself in that sense. And to me, that feels like, seeing what I can do as a competitive athlete and sharing my passion for the sport with others, and also being able to share that with, especially with other women, is a huge part of who I am. And I think if I gave that up, I would be doing a disservice to myself and my kids. So yeah, I think that's kind of like just trying to see the bigger picture. And obviously athletics, that might not be what it is for you as a mother,
Right.
but figuring out what it is that fills you up, and that like what it is that you're passionate about, and being okay with taking the time for yourself to develop those skills and talents. Because I mean, I personally feel like that's something that my kids really do look up to. I want to teach them to work hard and go after their goals and dreams. And, if they saw me like trying to dampen that part of myself, I just feel like it wouldn't be good for myself as a mom, or for them, and,
Mm-hmm.
their perspective of what motherhood looks like.
Right.
So I hope that helps. I mean, I don't know. I have so many jumbled thoughts about that subject and so many things that I could say. I could probably talk about it forever, but
No, I think that's really helpful. And it sounds like the kind of thing that probably for your entire life, or at least as long as your kids are at home, you have to
yeah,
practice so much compassion towards yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You cannot be too hard on yourself.
yeah, which is easier said than done sometimes. And
Right.
that's one thing I've realized with coaching other women. Um, it's always that I have to tell them, like, take it easy on yourself. You are doing a lot. And I think women just don't realize that, because when you become a mom, you're in such service mode and always thinking like, about your kids and your husband and everything else. And so it can become easy to just kind of forget about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or to feel
I'll
guilty when you
right.
do think about yourself. So
Right. I'll add one thing that helps for me, and obviously I have no experience having kids yet, but with my relationship and other areas of my life. So most people talk about the idea of work-life balance, but what's been really helpful for me is a new concept, which is work-life separation. So by creating more separation between my work, my hobbies, my relationship, I'm able to be more present in each of those. And a very like tactical way of looking
yeah,
at it is after like 5:30 p.m., Adi and I keep playing with like what time we're done and stuff like that. We're experimenting a lot
right.
always. But say for instance, after 5:30 p.m., I do not answer work text messages. And if you ask people that work with me, they'll say after 5 p.m., I'm really hard to get a hold of, because I'm trying to be present with my wife, with our dog. I'm trying to have some time for myself. So by creating some separation, you're just able to be more present with the things that are actually in front of you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And that's something I've definitely been working on as I've been doing more online work,
Mm-hmm.
is not letting it just like fill up my day kind of, and all
Yep.
of my like thoughts during the day, because that can be really easy to do. As an email comes in, you check it, and then you're thinking about that, and you know, it's easy to get sucked into different things and not be present in the moment.
Totally, totally. And nowadays, everyone's work has some level of online interaction, right? Whether it's social media, email, whatever it may be, or even just text messages, we can stay plugged into work constantly if we don't create boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you physically prepare for and recover from having the twins? Really, all of your kids, or no, the twins, and then how did that change when you had your other kid? Did you do anything differently the second time?
Yes. So those pregnancies look completely different. So when I got pregnant with the twins, I had like it's called placenta previa, with one of the placentas. It was low, and just basically in simple terms, it meant my pregnancy was high risk. So my doctor didn't want me to do like really any strenuous physical activity. And since it was my first pregnancy and I was already super paranoid, I totally just listened to him and didn't do a thing pretty much. I coached CrossFit. And obviously I was, doing CrossFit prior to getting pregnant. So I was in pretty good shape, but I really didn't do anything for almost the whole pregnancy. I ended up switching doctors around 27 weeks, and that doctor checked me and said I was actually good. I didn't have placenta previa anymore, so I was safe to work out. So I did work out for I think 4 weeks, but at that time, 2 babies in your belly,
right,
and toward the end of your pregnancy, having not really worked out prior, in the earlier months of my pregnancy, I was like, okay, I'm pretty tired. I think I'm going to just chill here.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do much. So coming off that pregnancy, and so I delivered them in July. They were full term, and they were both 6 pounds, just over 6 pounds. And so I had pretty severe abdominal separation after delivering them, along with all of the regular postpartum things that women go through. It's a big transformation. And so that was July, and I had set my sights on qualifying and competing in regionals as an individual.
Wow.
That following season, and then I also really wanted to qualify. I was just short of qualifying for nationals before my twin pregnancy in Olympic weightlifting. So I found out the national competition was going to be in Salt Lake as well. And so I wanted to qualify for that too. So I kind of just, got to work on getting back in shape. It felt like it was never going to happen, the first 6 months. And then from 6 months to 9 months, I started to sort of feel somewhat able to do things and hit consistent training and everything, and was gaining more confidence. And that was about when the Open started.
Right.
Which was also when I unknowingly got pregnant with Jack.
Oh God.
So we did fertility for the twins. So I just didn't think that I would get pregnant right away. Obviously,
classic last
words.
It was
the last thing on my mind, and I had this really bad abdominal separation that I was working on, healing. And so I kind of just, anything that was pregnancy symptoms, I just attributed it to being due to my ab separation, which was this foreign thing I was still researching and trying to figure out. And so as I was getting in shape, my abs weren't going back at all, and they were kind of getting worse.
Right.
So I was sort of putting it on the back burner, okay, this is this new thing that I have to deal with, and I just need to be okay with it. It shouldn't affect my, my self-confidence, and
right.
It's okay. I was just totally in denial because I thought it was, I was on these support groups for information, and I would see all these women who looked like they're about 5 months pregnant, and it was just the damage from their abs, being separated. And so anytime I would see my abs, I would just kind of think okay, this is my new reality. So anyways, I did qualify for regionals and for nationals, and competed at both. And I feel like I did pretty great, but I was pregnant, so it was hard to say. It's kind of hard to say on recovery how that went, because it was just I was starting to get in shape, and then I got pregnant. I remember Cherie Chan talking about how great I was doing at regionals, that I had just had twins, and another competitor had asked me in the bathroom oh, I heard you were pregnant, and I was so offended. No, I just had twins. I'm not pregnant.
No way. So you still didn't know.
And I was 13 weeks
wow.
pregnant at regionals. Yeah. So I had a blast. I loved it. And I just knew this was my new reality. I just figured, I'm tired all the time. It's hard to breathe. My abs are kind of messed up, but this must just be what it's like when you're postpartum with twins. So I just yeah, that
Wow.
tells you maybe a little bit of how sleep deprived I was.
No shit. So
Yeah.
the biggest one that I always hear about is around the abdominals, right? About
Yeah.
recovering correctly for the abdominals. So through both of your births, what have you learned about recovering to make sure that you don't destroy your abs in the future, basically?
Yeah. So, gosh, it's crazy how little information is out there and how many women suffer from diastasis recti. So, I just did a ton of research after having my twins. Like, what's going on? Why do my abs look so different? And I had a really severe umbilical hernia. Basically, it just means like my muscles, the basically the sorry, I'm having
All
trouble
good.
thinking. Basically, the tissue tore, behind my belly button
Mm-hmm.
really bad. So there was a hole there. So I had to get that repaired. And they just put mesh on it. And I really didn't know like what things were supposed to look like, how I was supposed to feel, any of it. So through all of my online research, I eventually found out kind of what it was that was going on with my abs. And my OB-GYN and any doctors I spoke with said that I would just need to get surgery and have my abs stitched back together when I was done having kids. So that's kind of what I thought, was like my only solution. And then I later found some programs that, help heal your abs, and I tried them, but they were all kind of the same, like basically do not do any physical activity for, 3 to 6 months besides walking, and every day do 30 minutes of these exercises where you're laying on your back, to heal your core. And so I tried that, but at the same time, like I had a goal to compete. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was hard for me to figure out kind of what to do in that sense. Like I wanted to compete and I didn't want this abdominal separation to hold me back. And so I don't know if this probably wasn't the best thing for me to do, but I just kind of moved forward after kind of getting discouraged with the programs that were available. I just moved forward into CrossFit and tried to avoid any exercises that I felt made my separation worse, like
Right.
GHD sit-ups or crunches, things like that.
Toes to bar,
And
stuff like that.
yeah, and my ab separation did get a lot better. It's still there, and the one thing I'm really excited about with this pregnancy is I did find someone to work with. Her Instagram is Brianna Battles. She's been really great with providing me with information, and she's in the CrossFit sector. She worked with Lindsay Valenzuela, and then I think gave Miranda Oldroyd some feedback for postpartum. So she understands like what we're doing, what we're trying to do, what our goals are, and then also how to incorporate that healing and strengthening that's needed within that sector,
Mm-hmm.
because the programs that I had tried prior, like they didn't understand what CrossFit was. They didn't understand why I'd want to be doing weightlifting. And so it was really hard to figure out what to do, what the solution was. And I think a lot of women fall in that same category. So kind of long story short, I think there are a lot more resources available now and a lot more women, that are in health and fitness that are being transparent with the process. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's helping.
Right. Yeah. Another really good resource for people listening is a friend of mine at BirthFit, and they have a podcast that puts out a ton of quality free information. Lindsay worked with us when we were preparing for the games, and she's just incredibly knowledgeable, and I've heard her talk about it ad nauseum. So really good resource for all of that. What advice would you give moms that are getting ready to have their first child and want to stay safe and also recover as quickly as possible?
Yes, I would say that the main thing to remember is that it is a process, and it's an amazing process. But your body is going to go through a lot in pregnancy. So, prior to that, setting yourself up as best as possible, being, as fit as possible and as healthy as possible. So getting those habits in place is only going to help you. But then also knowing that pregnancy is a whole different ball game, and you may not be able to hit your macros every day, and you may not feel like, going to the gym as possible. And just like being okay with that and being realistic with yourself and knowing that you're creating a human and it takes some energy and it does some things to your body that you might not expect. But that on the other end of that it is possible to be in the best shape of your life after you have kids, or even, in better shape than you ever were before. But it just takes patience and understanding and just a realistic approach to things, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Your life's not over when you have kids. Your fitness isn't over when you have kids. And I think it can be really hard to see that, like in those early months postpartum and also, toward the end of pregnancy, like your body looks so different and feels so different than it ever has before. It can be kind of scary and hard to know that like you could ever get back to feeling kind of normal again. But yeah, if you have those habits in place and you're consistent, then it will happen. And you don't have to do anything crazy to get there either.
Right. It's funny that it seems like the most important part of that is literally just the belief that you can get in the best shape of your life after you have kids, right? If you have that belief, then the actions you take are going to be so vastly different than coming from a place of, oh my God, I'm never going to get in shape again. I don't have enough time. Whatever the kind of negative belief is that holds you back.
Yeah, if it's going to be more of a challenge, I think, because you're going to have to juggle things and maybe make different sacrifices than you did before kids to find that time. Mm-hmm. But it's possible if that's what you want. And like I said, you don't have to do anything like spectacular or crazy. It's just those small efforts every day that add up. And the cool thing about being postpartum is I feel like your body remembers things and the more you move, it's like being an athlete. Like if you've done it before, even though you feel completely different this time around, like putting in that same effort that you did prior to pregnancy, your body will quickly adapt and change and remember what it's doing again.
Right. Okay, let's talk about you as a competitor a little bit more, because you're a CrossFit Games champion and I want to hear more about that. So you'd been doing CrossFit for a few years, and then to me, it looked like suddenly this flip switched for you. And maybe I'm just missing part of the story, but 2 years ago, you placed 6th at regionals. And for those of you who don't know, Michaela was actually called onto the podium as one of the top 5, and then I don't know, like seconds or minutes later, you were called off, and hours later, holy shit. So you were literally just preparing to go to the games as an individual, and then they said, we got the scoring wrong, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think from an outside perspective, like it definitely looks like I kind of came out of nowhere. I think that, so 2016 at regionals. But just like a little bit of background on that. So I qualified individually and competed. I ended up competing on a team in 2012. Had the twins, just so I got pregnant like 6 months later and had them 2013, that summer of 2013. So then I qualified and competed as an individual in 2014 when I was pregnant with Jack, and then had him in December. So I wasn't quite ready for that 2015 season. I was just a couple months postpartum, during the Open. So the downside of that was I couldn't compete that year. And also the downside of the prior regionals was I probably didn't look that fit from an outside perspective either. But the upside was, I had him in December of 2014. So I had like more than a little over a year before that next Open to get ready and train. And that was the first super regionals that I really wanted to qualify for. So yeah, I set my sights on that thinking like, okay, I don't really know what I'm capable of because I don't feel like I've really had like a solid chance to train, and see what I can do. But this year I have a year and I'm, trying to get back in shape postpartum. Obviously that takes some time, but I wanted to qualify and see what I could do at that 2016 regionals. So yeah, so I got there and the weekend started and I realized that I was way more capable than I had had thought I was. So I felt like that whole weekend, it was just like a matter of me playing catch up mentally to get on the same page as where I was at physically. Like each workout would come and I would do, all I wanted to do was my best at every workout. Like I really didn't know what to expect. It was just this huge venue with all these women that I had just built up in my head as being these just amazing athletes, like way above my level. I've been watching them for the past couple of years, and I didn't know how I matched up, but I kept just seeing myself as this kind of new mom of 3 kids. So the whole weekend, it felt like I was just kind of playing catch up with my confidence. Like, between every event, I would just go and like meditate and tell myself like, okay, you're capable of this. It's happening. Like you're doing well at these events. Like you are actually capable of going to the games. You need to believe that. And so, so coming into that final event, I was tied points wise. I was tied for second. And I think the next place was like 30 points behind me. So it was pretty, there was a pretty good spread between the top 3 and then that 4th and 5th spot. And then it was really close, I think, between like 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Gotcha.
So there was a battle that was happening for that 5th place spot. And I didn't have a coach or anything. It was kind of just me out there. My husband was there to support me, but we handled competition like completely different. So do
you remember what was going through your head?
Yeah. So going into that last event, I remember, and this is not my husband's fault at all, but I remember being like, okay, I think I just need to go through the motions on this last event. Like I don't need to do anything crazy. I need to just, finish like even a minute slower than my time when I trained in it. I think is fine. Like I just need to finish it kind of. And it was that 21-15-9 thrusters and 3-2-1 legless rope climbs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of a sprint, but I was like, okay, I think if I just do it, I'm okay. But so he called me before the last event and I kind of said that to him, like, okay, I think, I'm good. I just need to play this one safe and I'll be good to go. And he's like, oh no, he's like, go out there and win that thing. He's really competitive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to you anymore. And I hung up the phone. So then I was kind of like a nervous wreck. And I didn't really know like who to talk to or what to do or like what my strategy should be. And so, and then I also knew like, okay, I'm tied for second. Like maybe I should just give her hell here and see what I can do. Maybe I can get second place. And so, so I went out onto the floor and, the event started and I could just feel like how fast the other women were going, fighting for that 5th place spot. There was like this whole rivalry going on that like I really didn't even need to be a part of. But I just, the competitiveness in me, and also like the rookie in me, I totally got sucked into it.
Wow.
And, cruise through those 21s. Meanwhile, right next to me is Camille, who's just jogging the event. And she's super smart. She knew like, okay, I just need to finish this event. I'm good to go. I wish I would have just taken a moment and like looked around and had been more aware of what was going on. I would have realized like, it would have made way more sense as far as what I should do for that event. But I definitely got caught up in the energy and, jumped up on the rope, did my 3 rope climbs, sprinted back, did my 15, ran back, did my 2 rope climbs, ran back, did my 9 thrusters, and then came up on that final rope climb. And I heard the announcer yell that the other girl, I am blanking on her name, was heading up her rope. And she was the girl that I was tied with second for. And this event was great for her. And so, in my mind, I was like, oh, I need to go. And so I jumped up on the rope, climbed up to the top, hit the beam, and I came down and I heard no rep. And I was so caught up in the moment. I didn't really know what happened. And so instead of calmly gathering myself and, looking around and seeing where I was at and realizing I had time and I could take a few breaths and make sure I got the rep, I didn't do that. And I just, frantically jumped back up on the rope, climbed up, made it like a foot from the top.
Oh,
my hands slid down and I dropped to the floor. And I think I did that like 2 more times. ended up falling on my butt and like in tears, you know, to finish
Wow.
out my regionals experience. So I was really, I was totally devastated. And the event finished, and I had no clue where that left me, but I knew it wasn't good. Um, and immediately after, I heard that there were athletes appealing their no reps, and that another athlete mentioned that I should appeal mine. And so I didn't really, I was so caught up in the moment and didn't really know kind of like what I was supposed to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just asked them if they would review mine also. And so, we just kind of waited in the corral for a while, and the judges came back and said they reviewed my reps and they were all good. And so they were going to credit me the time, that I should have finished. And so they did that. And then, you know, couple seconds later, I heard them announcing that I was in third place, and they took me to the podium, and it was all kind of a whirlwind. And I felt really confused and like unsure about things, you know, like I was really excited, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I don't really know what just happened. It was just a lot of emotions in a short period of time. Um, so wow, I think I'm way past answering your
Nope,
question,
you're
but
you're almost there.
okay, so just stop me if you need to stop me. But so I did the podium. They had me come back. I got drug tested. I got fitted for Reebok. I was about to go. I had to catch a plane that night to get back to my kids, and so I was kind of like on my way out the door, and the judges were all kind of gathered, and um, one of the volunteers mentioned that one of the athletes was on the phone and had kept calling, and so they took the call and asked me to stay. And at that moment, I kind of knew, like, oh, I don't know what's going on, but it's not good. And so they asked me to stay. So me and Craig stayed, and we sat for like 45 minutes.
Oh God.
And just kind of the two of us. Like, I was like, okay, I can stay for maybe an hour. Like, I'm gonna miss my plane otherwise. And so they called me back, and they told me that they had deliberated, and they had realized that they made an error on their end, and they weren't actually able to um, like change any calls that had been made on the floor
Mm-hmm.
after the fact, and that it was in the rule book, um, and that they had reviewed my video again, and that actually my knees had touched the rope before my hands had maintained control on it.
Uh-huh.
So it was technically a no rep. And so when I heard him say that, like I could just tell how bad they felt when they were telling me. And in my mind, I was like, okay, I definitely do not want to go to the CrossFit Games if I am not qualified to, if I didn't earn my spot. So immediately, they asked if I had any questions or anything, and I told them, like, look, I definitely don't want to be going to the CrossFit Games if I didn't earn my spot. So like, there's nothing I can do at this point. And I tried to give them the medal and the belt and everything, and they were like, no, 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 take that. It's not for sure yet, but I kind of knew it was. And at that point, I was just like so emotionally exhausted. I just wanted to go home and see my kids and just kind of move on. And but it was really hard to go through all those emotions in such a short, period of time, and to experience all of that. But yeah, I hadn't really talked about this experience really that in depth until I think I mentioned it to you just last week. I ended up talking to all of the brute
Mm-hmm.
athletes that I coach about it, because I was just talking to them about mindset, and just how basically after that happened, I had a lot of people talk to me and tell me how, like, oh, CrossFit's really screwed you over, and like you should do this and you should do that, and kind of all these different things, like all these different things that people were saying to me, really made me think. And I kind of just realized for myself, like, okay, what happened? No, it was me. Like, I made the rookie mistake. I had all the control in that workout on my results, and like I made some errors. I went too fast. I didn't pay attention to my surroundings. I I went into it like without a set goal in mind. I really just didn't plan for success, and I let my head get in the way of like what I should have done on that workout. And in doing that and in realizing those things and in taking the blame myself, it just gave me the power to work on those things and to know like, okay,
Right.
if the blame's in my power, then that means the solution is in my power. And I want to be in this sport long term. So I want to put in the work to make sure that I get there. And I don't want there to be any doubt in my mind or anyone else's mind that I deserve to be there. So it was really good. It was really good learning for me. It was hard learning, but I really appreciate the experience. And I feel like I came out like a way more mentally sound athlete after
Mm-hmm.
I realized like, okay, I can't that like that is not the time to be weak as an athlete. And, not weak physically, but weak mentally, and just how much the mental game plays into CrossFit. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it just gave me a whole new perspective for that. And it was really, really great learning. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have turned out any other way because the learning was really valuable.
God, if it wasn't weird to just clap on a podcast, I would be over here clapping. That's amazing. The your perspective on that was so mature and just amazing in terms of being a good human being. I love what you said about taking like the power being in your court when you took accountability for it, right? If you had said it's CrossFit's fault, then you may have not learned a thing from that
Right.
experience and you wouldn't have gotten any better.
No. Yeah. And I would have been really negative, I think, moving forward. And
Yep.
that was the last thing I wanted. Was I, yeah, I just knew that that wouldn't fuel me in any way. So
Wow. Just such a good story. Thank you so much for sharing that. How has that changed you as an athlete now? Like what specifically, in what specific ways do you approach workouts or competitions differently now?
yeah, well, I think with competitions, I definitely think through like what my strategy should be, where my mind should be. Um, I'm way more aware of what's going on with my judge, with the field, with other athletes, and not that I'm playing to anyone else's game because you can't do that in CrossFit. But I think I'm just way more calm on the floor
Mm-hmm.
than I was before, and also I'm way more aware of where my weaknesses lie and what those are, and I know that like they don't go away if you don't address them and work on them. So I think with my training, that's definitely helped tremendously with
Right.
just knowing like when you're competing in CrossFit, your weaknesses are going to be exposed. So what are you going to do to make that as less as possible, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Man, I love it. So then you get to this year and
Yes.
there's a conversation that starts about starting a team. What was that
Yeah.
what was that conversation? Who started
Oh,
it? How did that whole thing go?
I can't remember who started it, but Mandy Janowitz, one of my favorite humans ever, was also on the floor with me during that rope climb workout,
Mm-hmm.
and she was fighting for one of those top 5 spots, and her workout ended similar to mine. I think both of us were on our butts at the end of that workout with a missing our last
Mm-hmm.
rope climb, and just devastated. And so I can't remember when it started, but so Adrian and Tiffany were also competing, and so let's see, Mandy, Tiff, Adrian, and me had all taken top 10 at that regionals, and we're all feeling like frustrated with not qualifying for the games, obviously, and knew that we were capable of being there, and so somewhere over those next couple months, we all started talking about how that's what we wanted to do, and like let's go team and let's do this together. And I don't know why we hadn't done it before, but now's the time. And we ended up getting in touch with Brennan and figured out like when he was coming back to the U.S. so that we could make that a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake Hutton was we were trying to talk him into it, but he had some other career opportunities happen, which was really great for him. So luckily we had Mitch at our gym who was just a newbie in CrossFit. And I don't even think we were planning on him because he was like, I mean, the Open in 2016 was like his first month of CrossFit.
Right.
But he, like, talk about work ethic. I mean, he worked his butt off all year and had Adrian mentoring him all year. And so come January, he was, the best option. He had some weaknesses and he'd showed us that he had overcome them and had just been working his butt off. So it was really cool how it evolved. But I would say definitely the conversation started like shortly after regionals, and Adrian had to kind of like pump the brakes a little bit on us. Like, okay, guys, this is a long season. Like, let's do this, but we're good. Like, we have some time.
Let's be smart.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like for you? You had just missed qualifying as an individual. How was that, like the initial like committing to going team when you were that close as an individual?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, it was something I wrestled with a lot. Like even leading up to the Open. On the one hand, like I felt such a huge desire to go back and prove myself to myself even that I could do it as an individual athlete and that I was capable. But on the other hand, I knew that the opportunity to compete with these other 5 individuals was maybe never going to happen again. And I knew that we could do something really, really special together. And I knew we were capable of winning the CrossFit Games. So, yeah, it was hard. And I had so many people like ask me, like, why aren't you going individual? Why would you even consider going team? You were so close last year. Like, why would you not take that opportunity again? And so that kind of made it hard. Like, it made me really have to think about it. And I think too, like in the beginning when we weren't like, we definitely didn't start out the team that we finished as. And so I think it was like anytime we had a rough day or a rough training session or we weren't gelling, like that would be in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I expressed that a few times and talked it through with Adrian and Tiffany, because I was with them a lot more than the rest of the group, because we're at the same gym like day in and day out. So especially coming off of Wadapalooza, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah. So we went into that kind of thinking like, oh, yeah, we have this great team. Like, we're going to just crush it. And it did not go that way. Mm-hmm. And we did not communicate. We did not pay attention to the other teams and what they were doing on the floor. They were all, we were kind of a mess. And it wasn't because we weren't fit. It was because we were not working together as a team.
Right.
And so coming off that, like, I was kind of like, oh man, I don't know. And now we laugh about it. But I was like, I don't know if we can do this as a team. And I had a lot of doubt. And I hate to say that. And I doubted myself, like if I could be on a team and, just if we had the ability to work together and support one another. And so that was hard. And I think kind of, I just talked about this I just did a podcast with Barbell Spin, and I kind of talked about this like really briefly on that. But I think what sort of changed things for us, because that was sort of like a rude awakening, mm-hmm. and it kind of made us all like realize we weren't invincible, and it was going to take a lot of work if this was what the goal was. And like, are we all willing to put in the work, and are we willing to put in the work together for each other? And so it took going through that process. And also I would say a huge factor for me realizing I wanted to go team was working. So Nick Fowler came in to the picture like shortly after that for us. And for those of you that don't know him, he's an awesome coach for Brute Strength, and he's in Utah. So he's local to us. And so he came to one of our practices, and I think that it was either I think it was right after the Open.
Yeah, so that sounds right.
Yeah, so he came and he said he would be willing to, coach us through regionals in the games, and we were excited. And at that point we were all feeling like we were in way better shape, obviously, than we were at Wadapalooza, and kind of ready to like crush this first team practice,
Right.
that like official one, with a coach. We'd been practicing together on our own, obviously, but so he came and he put us through like a crazy training session. I think just obviously to see where we were all at mentally, and like how we supported one another when things got hard.
Right.
And we epically failed the test.
Mm-hmm.
I think. We all went out there. I mean, so we had to do like 100 reps. I think it was like a Murph on steroids, basically, that we had to do with weight vests, and then with the worm, and we also had to do some lifting in there. I don't know if it was like the workout before Murph or what, but during the reps, like I would hit my set, and then I would go and like sit down, or like zone out while the next person was doing their set, and they would do the same. Like we were all just individually doing our reps.
Yep.
And nobody was like cheering each other on, paying attention to what the other person was doing, just like getting through it. And then on the running portion, we all like booked it in as fast as we could, didn't pay attention to where anyone else on the team was at. Came in through that door, to finish, and we all sat down afterwards, and he was talking to us, and
I'm going to stop you real quick. I don't think y'all know this, but he texted me during that workout, and he said, Mike, do you they're literally shitting the bed right now. Do you think they can handle me like chewing their ass? Like,
what did
really?
You say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please do.
Yeah, I think we were yelling at each other. There was one point when we were all so exhausted, and Brennan he just yelled vest, like vest. And we're all like too tired to respond to him. Like, what's he talking about? We're heading toward the door. We're going to pick up our vests and go out on the run. Like, why is he yelling vest right now? And he couldn't finish the sentence because he was so tired, and he was like trying to guys, are we supposed to put on our vests right now or not? And so he yells vest, and we're all just like kind of grumbling and heading toward the door like, dude, yeah, they're over there. And he's like, vest! And he yells it like 2 more times, and Adrian's like, I don't know, I think Adrian yelled something back like, what? Like, they're over there. And so we all got our vests on.
I love it.
It was just like a mess, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many reasons, like, oh, so-and-so. Yeah, just focusing on everyone's weaknesses, and like it was just about as bad as and non-supportive as it could be. And so clearly he did what you said, and he was like, I think he gave us like a little tidbit of like positive encouragement at the beginning, saying that like our fitness wasn't going to hold us back.
Mm-hmm.
But like, as far as a team goes, like we had so much to work on. Like none of us were supporting each other. None of us were there for each other. And what he told us was if we had the goal to win the CrossFit Games, like that's what was going to be our limiter, was our ability to work as a team. And I think that was like a real eye opener for a lot of us. And we had the chance to kind of talk through our feelings like a little bit during that, like on where we were all coming from, and like, and how we wanted to better achieve that kind of, and what we felt the limiters were for us. And the general theme, I think, was that, all of us felt like, I think for the most part, all of us are pretty natural leaders on the team, but none of us felt like it was our position to lead the team.
Got it.
And we all kind of felt like Adrian was the natural leader for us. And then I think his viewpoint was like he wanted to be on the team. He didn't want to be coaching us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we kind of talked through that, and like he realized that we needed him to take on that role.
Right.
And so we did. And I think from there on forward, like we all learned to trust one another. We learned how to communicate. We were honest with each other when we had issues, and we were all working to like, what can I do to support my teammate versus like, okay, I'm going to be the fittest one on the team, so I don't suck.
Right.
It was, no, like, how can I be there for whoever's next to me? So we are supporting each other.
Huge difference.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem like that big of a thing to change, but like it made us all learn to like love each other and appreciate each other and care about each other, which ultimately made all the difference on the floor. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
were out there, you could see the difference, I think,
Mm-hmm.
with us versus a lot of the teams out there.
I love it. So y'all go and win the CrossFit Games. One thing that I was on a podcast recently and someone asked me, I think I was interviewing Jason Layden. And he talked about your guys' posture and how you just stood up straight the entire weekend, and it was kind of intimidating. Where do you think that comes from? Where did that stem from?
So I was talking to Tiffany about this the other day, and I think like leading up to regionals, I don't even know where we got this, honestly, but for some reason we started talking about how we had like our basically our strength as a team was that we had really great endurance and like we could handle pain really well together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like, and I honestly don't know if that's true. Like, I honestly don't know if we could handle pain better than the other teams out there, but we told ourselves that from the beginning. And so I think all of us just believed that. And so we were like,
Gotcha.
okay, when this workout gets hard, it's going to be way harder for everyone else out there.
Right.
And that's what we told ourselves. And so going into those like crazy hard workouts, all of us were super just like pumped and like ready to just get into the biggest pain cave possible, because we knew like once it got really painful for us, that's where we were excelling and that's where we were moving faster than other teams. And I honestly, like, looking back, like I don't know if that was the case, but I think that mindset alone made a huge difference. I mean, I think that's what allowed us to win and hold the record at regionals for the thruster burpee workout.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the games, like I was really fascinated to see how big of a difference that played. So going into that rowing front squat workout with the worm, like we were the final heat. So we watched all the teams come off the floor and they looked like they just got annihilated. Like everyone's faces were just like, I can't even describe it. You know, everyone's covered in sweat, red, like hair's all messy, looking at us like, oh man, good luck guys. Oh, that was, you just heard like a lot of groans, a lot of, you know, just what you would expect after that workout was really brutal. And so, hearing them like kind of fueled our team. Like I could feel our energy rising, because we knew like, okay, this is our workout. This is this is our strength. This is what we're made for. And then you could hear all the other teams around us kind of talking about like, oh, maybe if you skip this one, we'll skip this one. Like maybe if we all boycott it, we don't have to do it. And like hearing them talk like that right before we were about to go on the floor, just made me more fired up. And so we discussed it like we're going to run all of our transitions. Like it doesn't matter how tired we are. Like we are going to run to the worm. We're going to run to the rowers. And watching it back, I don't know that we necessarily were like, we weren't the first teams off the rower. But we ran to the worm and we picked it up immediately,
Mm-hmm.
which made us the first team into the thrust or into the front squats. And like that is kind of how it played out for the whole workout. I think since we all believed it, like we all felt each other's energy and we were all able to build off of one another. And yeah, that made like a huge difference. And I think that's why our posture was different than the other teams. Like instead of going into the workout thinking about how painful it was going to be, we were just like excited for
It's an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Since it's going to hurt, it's going to be better for us.
Yeah. And
like
I think, I don't know, that made all the difference for us as a team. And I don't even know like how it started or what, but I'm so glad we had been saying that all season, because it, you know, mentally we were all ready for anything when it came to the pain, like as far as like pain goes.
Right. It's similar to a kind of a football mentality of when it's like some teams hate when it rains because they can't pass as much. And then some coaches really build up this whole, you know, we play better when it rains. We're tougher than them, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that mentality.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know. I think, I don't know. I think as an athlete over the years, that's definitely like the one thing I've learned the most is that, you know, in college, like the practices that I went out knowing, because our workouts were always kind of like a surprise. Obviously by your senior year, you knew exactly what the coach was going to tell you that you were doing, but they took pride in like us not knowing what was coming. And I always knew I just learned, over and over and over the workouts that I went out and like telling myself I was going to do my best and it was going to be easy for me and it was going to feel great no matter what they threw at us, were the days that like I always left the track feeling really proud of myself and like really feeling like I had the energy and I had the strength to complete the workout. And the days that I went in feeling scared and like timid about how bad it was going to feel, or like maybe I wasn't going to be able to run as fast as the other girls and keep up, like those were the days that like that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. So I think years of that definitely helps you as an athlete with your mindset going into something.
Right. Couldn't agree more. Okay. I want to talk about coaching for a few minutes and then I won't take up any more of your time. So I met you several years ago as an athlete and started following you on your Instagram handle, Hungry Fitness. And at the time you were coaching CrossFit classes and coaching nutrition. And I saw you as always being just so empowering in the words that you would use. Also, that you would post kind of like vulnerable pictures of yourself after you were pregnant. You're talking about your abs being separated and you were always posting about that. Mm-hmm. And you're just constantly sharing this message of believing in yourself and empowering other women to do the same for themselves. So where did that come from in your life? Like, where did that courage to share come from? Was it someone in your life, or did you just create that on your own?
Gosh, that's a good question. It's always been in my nature to talk through my issues or whatever's on my mind. And it wasn't really until I was an adult that I realized that like not everyone does that. And I also got feedback as an adult, like realizing that, not everyone likes that either. But when I started my Instagram account, I didn't really think about like followers or anything like that. I just wanted to document the things that I was really passionate about. And I was really excited about CrossFit. I was really excited about nutrition. And so I was just like documenting those things and just talking like I would to my friends, about the things that I was excited about. And kind of fast forward through my twin pregnancy and being postpartum, I ended up with a following of people that were looking to me for advice at that point and motivation, I think. And so I sort of felt like it was my duty to share and be transparent in who I was and my journey, so people could get a realistic idea of what I was going through, and also know that, if that's something that they wanted, like that they could do it too. And I wanted to just share with everybody the process that I was experiencing, because if it helped, one or two people, then it was worth it. And, so that's kind of where that came from. And then I would get a lot of messages from women who were struggling maybe with their own insecurities, or didn't have the confidence in their own ability to achieve their goals, and how my post like was everything to them, and it helped them decide to, work harder, go after their goals, or be easier on themselves, or, have the self-confidence that they needed, because they realized that like other women are going through the same things that they are. And just those messages and hearing those things are definitely what made me continue to share, and kind of realize like how lucky I am to have the opportunity to do that.
Right. On your weekly report this week, you told me about the fact that you shared that story about regionals with the Brute Body group, and you used the word vulnerability. After like having been vulnerable, over and over and over on that platform, on Instagram, like to the public eye, has it gotten any easier to share those kinds of things? What's that experience been like to continue putting yourself out there?
Yeah, I think it's definitely gotten easier. I mean, I think it's always scary when you're being vulnerable and you're showing people your weaknesses or things that maybe you necessarily like aren't um excited to share, or maybe like mistakes you've made or things you're not as proud of. But um for me, like being honest with people and being able to share ways that I've been able to grow and learn, or like ways that I've been able to develop self confidence after, maybe when it's been really hard for me, um, have all it's taught me a lot in just hearing the responses from people. So it's made it easier to continue to share. Um, but I still get nervous, and I still get nervous really when I post like anything from the heart on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
because I think, or on social media, because I always worry that I'm giving an accurate picture of who I am. And,
Right.
and it's like
Totally.
hard to do that, because on the one hand, you want to share the things you're excited about and maybe the things you're learning or the ways you're progressing or the things you're doing well. And then on the other hand, you want to make sure people know like my laundry room is always a mess, or I I struggle with this, or like I have these imperfections, and you hope that they get a full picture of who you are. But at the end of the day, like everyone's probably getting their own picture of who you are
Right.
based on their own preconceived things that they're dealing with or whatever. And so it can be hard to figure that out. And so it's something I'm still working on, I think, and trying to be better at. But it's validating when I hear people encouraged by the things that I
Totally.
post.
Totally. It gives you the courage to continue putting yourself out there. As far as I understand it, it is, sharing things that are vulnerable, being authentic,
Yeah.
never gets easy, but
Yeah.
we get more in the habit of doing so, right? We know it's the right
Yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah.
One thing on top of that I love that Brene Brown talks about is like it's what we want to do as teachers and leaders is to be vulnerable, but so share vulnerabilities, not
Mm-hmm.
intimacies. So things that are
Right.
intimate are maybe things that we haven't quite, like we're still extremely sensitive to and haven't worked through yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then a vulnerability is something that is still puts us at emotional risk, but it's something that if people respond negatively to us, it's not going to shatter our sense of self-worth, for instance.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and I think, if I've learned something from a trial or a challenge that I've had personally, like I just assume that there's other people out there that are having similar trials or challenges, and if I can help them through that process, then like that's everything to me. So, if I can use my platform to do that, then I kind of feel like it's my duty to. So, yeah, that's
Hell yeah.
that's where I'm at, I guess.
What are a few
With
of the
that.
what are a few of the biggest things that you've learned from working with so many people on their fitness and nutrition?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I was way more rigid when I first started out, and over the years, I've definitely learned that every individual is so different and unique, and what might work really well for one person who has X numbers and stats is might not work at all for another person with the exact same stats, like
Mm-hmm.
that you might. And so being able to adapt and being willing to really listen to people and understand like what's going on with them besides how much sleep they're getting, or what their current macro intake and activity level um, is makes a huge difference when you're coaching them,
Mm-hmm.
as far as nutrition goes, or in even obviously with fitness as well. Like people are very complex beings, and the more you take the time to care about them and get to know them as individuals, the better you're able to serve them and help them hit their goals. So I think that's the main thing I've learned. Like it's less about the numbers and more about yeah,
The
like learning
connection.
about,
The
connecting, and
connection. I love it.
exactly. And
Y-
and that's how I'm best able to help people, like, because then they trust me, and then they're
exactly.
able to tell me everything that's really going on in their life, and I feel so honored to be in that role.
That is awesome. The quote, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. right? Until they
That's
know
good.
that we're really invested in their well-being, they don't trust what we say, right?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
huge.
I've definitely experienced that.
What have you learned about yourself? One of the biggest things you've learned about yourself as a result of working with so many people?
Ooh, about myself. Um, that's a good question. I've learned, um, hmm.
Or even just a benefit that you've gained in your personal life?
I think a benefit definitely would be that I've learned how to connect with all different types of people, men and women of all different ages. And I've learned too that I think that people aren't always as they seem, like never to judge somebody before you actually get to know them, because um, you could find connections with so many different types of people that maybe seem unlikely to have anything like in common with you. Um, and I don't know. I would say I'm just way more open to learning and getting to know people,
Mm-hmm.
and just realizing that we're all so much alike on so many levels, and it's just been, I don't know, I would say the benefit for sure has just been being able to connect with so many people and share that, like share being able to hear people's fears and what they're excited about and their goals, and being able to be there with them in that space
Mm-hmm.
has been a huge benefit for me, because it's such an honor to be able to be there with people through, like through their deepest thoughts and concerns and frustrations and goals. And yeah, if that makes, it's kind of a jumbled response, but
That makes perfect sense.
that's
Oh man,
basically, yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking the brute body women are just so lucky to have someone like you guiding them through the whole process. Someone that cares so much. Oh man, it's been great. I already had so much respect for you that but hearing some of these stories about your perspective at regionals and how you've dealt with some of the challenges in your life just puts that on a whole nother level. So I really
Oh.
appreciate your time. Where can people find out more about you and keep up with what you're doing?
Pretty much mostly my Instagram. I have like big goals for someday doing a blog, but pretty much
Yes.
Instagram. Hungry Fitness is my handle, and you can find me on there. I post a lot. I also have my more personal account, which is mostly just like family photo album, which is Michaela Beth. But yeah, on a side note to that, I just want to say that I feel so lucky to be a part of Brute Strength and be the Brute Body coach, because those women are so motivating and inspirational. It's such a great group, and they're so supportive of one another, and it's been so much fun to watch them, um, just over the past, couple of months. So
Yep.
I love it.
Synergy. Love it. Awesome, Michaela. Thank you so much for your time. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Talk to you later, Mike.